The last time you gave us an update, the price was below a nickel, I believe, and now we're up. We hit 18 cents recently, 17 or 18 cents, and we're back down at around a dime, but it's pretty much been a double since the last time we spoke.
The CEO of BlackRock, one of the largest asset managers in the world, he thought, this was 2 years ago, that the future of the financial markets, of securities markets, was going to be tokenization. So at the time, we were wondering what networks were going to be able to build the proper infrastructure in a compliant way to be able to facilitate this kind of stuff. Well, we got one of those answers this week.
I want to welcome everyone to this video. I've got Brendan Hargraves with me once again, and he's going to give us an update on Hashgraph. Brendan, what's been going on? How are you doing?
It's been really busy, Mike. We've been having a blast following everything. As you know, I do a show every Friday. I have dozens of things that are happening within the Hedera ecosystem on a regular basis. But just to kind of give everybody an idea of what Hedera is, it's a layer one network, similar to Ethereum. It allows things like tokenization, swapping of assets, logging data, just to name a few. Now, just to go through some of the names, Hedera is the network itself. Hashgraph is the algorithm that underpins it. It was invented by Dr. Lehman Baird, one of the founders of Hedera. HBAR is the native cryptocurrency that secures the network and pays for the different services. So when we're talking about services, we have a smart contract service. We have a native token creating service. We have Hedera consensus service. So that's like an online notary. And then we have a file storage service. Separate from the consensus, Hedera has separated out consensus and governance. And the governance is something called the Hedera Governing Council. And on the council, we have these blue chip companies. Hedera knew that they wanted to meet the needs of mission critical applications for these really large enterprises. And if they could meet the needs for those large enterprises, they could meet the needs for pretty much everybody else. So they figured in that context, they should have these Fortune 500 type companies to govern the network, to guide it as it needed to change throughout time. And so in the beginning, it was hard to think, are they actually going to be able to put something like that together? But here we are now. We have 34 different council members of the likes of Boeing and Google and Deutsche Telekom and Nomura, and we've added some additional ones this year. But things are going really well to this point. I'll pause there real quick, and then we can get into all the details.
Well, two things. The last time you gave us an update, the price was below a nickel, I believe, and now we're up. We hit 18 cents recently, 17 or 18 cents, and we're back down at around a dime, but it's pretty much been a double since the last time we spoke. But you were mentioning the governing councils. One of the very strategic moves that Hedera made was to make sure that these companies that are listed on the governing council are spread out all over the planet, that there's interests in every different country and every different continent, that makes it so that it is a very international distributed ledger. And when I say distributed ledger instead of cryptocurrency, that's the real value. This isn't just a speculation. This is something that is used in the real world to do real world things. You don't just buy a bunch of it and then just hope that it's going to go up, that more people will be buying more to create more demand. The price goes up and then you sell. And so, you're selling to somebody someday that will be holding the bag, unless there is a use for this item. And one of the things that the reason that I really liked Hashgraph, Hedera Hashgraph, by the way, a lot of people will say that it's, one of the blockchain cryptos, and it's not a blockchain. It is a graph of hashes, Hashgraph. And so it is, there's only a few cryptos that are non-blockchain, and the other ones that were not blockchain were not successful. This is the one that is successful, and it's, I believe that it is superior to blockchain technology, more scalable, more, it's faster, fairer, safer, more secure, more scalable, and incredibly energy efficient. So anyway, tell us where you were going. We have seen some interest from mainstream finance, from the big brokerage firms, we're talking about tokenization of real world assets now. So fill us in on all of this news that has happened recently. It's stuff, I'm going to get a bunch of hate mail now on this video, but it's stuff you can't really do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin now with the Lightning Network and stuff, they've put some band-aids on it to make it more scalable and make it work, but it's requiring band-aids to make it do that. The things that you have to add on to it. Hashgraph just natively is incredibly scalable and incredibly fast. It can handle bandwidth at a cost that is so low per transaction, and the energy usage is incredibly low compared to others. So fill us in all this fill us in on all of this, but especially start with the tokenization of real world assets and how this is just changing everything.
Absolutely. So the Hashgraph, it's just a different data structure, and like Lehman says, it hits the limits of what's possible with one of these DLTs on the internet. But as far as real world asset tokenization, this is catching a lot of buzz right now. And the CEO of BlackRock, one of the largest asset managers in the world, he thought, this was 2 years ago, that the future of the financial markets, of securities markets, was going to be tokenization. So at the time, we were wondering what networks were going to be able to build the proper infrastructure in a compliant way to be able to facilitate this kind of stuff. Well, we got one of those answers this week. We've had this company that is out of the UK. They are the only compliant securities exchange in the UK. They're called Archax. And several months ago, they tokenized a fund for Aberdeen. Aberdeen is one of the largest asset managers in the UK. I think $600 or $700 billion worth of assets under management. Certainly big news for the Hedera ecosystem. But what was announced this past week is Aberdeen has, in consultation with BlackRock, they have tokenized one of BlackRock's funds. And, it's not the entire fund. I think the fund is a $25 billion fund, but, it's just a portion of that fund. But again, it's that serving as that proof of concept of what's possible, who has built that infrastructure. And of course, Archax has decided to tokenize these assets on Hedera. I also had a question. I was talking to Graham. He's the CEO and founder of Archax. I was curious. I'm like, is this, only for these money market funds, or can you tokenize, under your current compliance regime, can you tokenize other things? And he said, of course, we could tokenize pretty much any security that's out there, whether it's a bond, whether it's an equity, whether it's an ETF. So again, they already have everything in place and built on top of Hedera to facilitate exactly what Larry Fink was saying, the tokenization of financial markets. So it's really exciting. But as far as real world asset tokenization, whether it's carbon credits, Hedera's leading there, even things like diamonds are now being made fungible through a company called Diamond Standard, and they tokenized on Hedera. We have a fair amount of real estate that's being tokenized on Hedera with the likes of Red Swan. So as far as real world asset tokenization, Hedera really is in a pole position.
Tell me a little bit more. I'm specifically interested in the carbon credits portion. Are you talking about Dovu?
Dovu is one of the parts of what they call the Guardian ecosystem. We call it refi, regenerative finance. And we call it the Guardian ecosystem because that's the token standard that they use to tokenize all these different assets. And Hedera is light years ahead of our competitors. They've put a lot of work into building out the infrastructure for this. Some things that have developed since the last time we talked: Alcott, which creates or works with the teams that creates these carbon credits through either reforestation or renewable energy or something along those lines, they pledged 500 million tons of carbon credits to the Hedera network, to the Guardian ecosystem. So that's just the beginning. And why is that good for the Hedera ecosystem? Well, I was talking to Rob Allen. He's one of the Hedera governing council members, and he was saying, well, you have to create the token. That's a fee. You have to trade the token back and forth, possibly through smart contracts. Those are fees that are associated with that. And then you have to eventually retire these things. When you're talking about the real value, that's how the real value accrues to Hedera, because those fees are all being paid in HBAR. So whoever's using the network needs to buy those HBAR, and then they have to use them to pay these fees, and they have to continue to do that as these marketplaces develop and so forth. So it's exciting to see that. It's really early. We know it's a tens of billions of dollar market right now as far as carbon credits, but it's going to grow into hundreds and then trillions of dollars in the future. So we're doing really good on that front. I have some other things that we can talk about when it comes to regenerative finance, but again, I'll take a pause.
Well, just tell us about then the distribution of the governing council. And then some of these companies are like IBM and Boeing and so on, right? These are some of the biggest companies on the planet. How many seats are filled, and what is the cap on the number of seats?
So we currently, I believe, have 34 different council members. And like you said, they're distributed across geography. So they're all throughout the world. We have them on every single continent. Africa, we have them in Japan, we have them in India, we have them in Europe, South America. Pretty much every region is covered at this point, except for Antarctica. But it's also covered across industries. So we have banks, we have telcos, we have law firms, we have educational like IIT Madras and the University College London. So we pretty much have expertise from all around. They've done a really good job, but they're also decentralized or distributed over time. So these council members don't come on and get comfortable and stay there forever. They can serve up to 2 6-year terms, and then they have to roll off. And so far this year, we've set a pretty good pace of adding additional council members. We've added 3 to this point. We added Hitachi back in January, and then in February, we added 2 in fairly short order. We added Mondelez and then BitGo. So BitGo is smaller than they usually have, but it's a Web3 focused team. They have all kinds. They have 100 Fortune 500 brands. They are doing custody for the Bitcoin ETF. They have 200 crypto exchanges that are part of their team. We haven't heard exactly what they're doing or what Hitachi is doing to this point on the Hedera network, but they all have to have a use case that they're working on. On the other hand, Mondelez, which is another council member that was added, they have announced what they're working on, or at least the direction they're going in. And Mondelez, that might not be the household name that everybody knows, but you can think about Kraft Foods. They consolidated with Kraft Food, Cadbury, Oreo, Chips Ahoy, all of these confections that we have out there. So those are Mondelez companies. And they're working with a team called SKUX on coupons. So they're initially using them for coupons, but SKUX isn't just focused on coupons. They want to look at payments as well. They consider themselves a payments company. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But that's the other good thing that we've seen coming out of the council is not only are they joining because they want to get involved with this new technology or because they want to get exposure to all these other council members, but they are coming to the table with these different use cases. So it's exciting to watch.
Hi, I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for subscribing and mention that if you'd like to help our channel, please consider my company, GoldSilver.com, the next time you buy precious metals. We're one of the most trusted names in the industry. Our prices are sharp, delivery is fast, and we have an insiders program where you find out exactly what I'm doing with my own investments. Thanks for making GoldSilver.com your dealer, and now back to the video. Wow. Okay, you had a little slide presentation that you had sent me with some other stuff on there. Can you cover some of those topics?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the first thing is, even though we have these 34 large council members, we're working with all kinds of different teams within the space. And just to kind of give you a little background of myself, I came into this just because I got fascinated with the industry, but I came on with the HBAR Foundation, and the HBAR Foundation has been tasked with building out the Hedera ecosystem. They're separated from other entities within the Hedera world, but that's what they're mainly focused on. But I'm just here, with my my own hat on. I'm not representing the HBAR Foundation today, just so we can talk about all these different things without any limitations. But one of the things that came out recently that really caught my eye was WiseKey. We talk about DePIN, or decentralized physical infrastructure. Now, WiseKey is a Swiss company. They are listed on the NASDAQ, and they just announced that they're going to be coming out with something called Sealcoin. It's completely flying under the radar. But what Sealcoin is, it's an IoT, so Internet of Things payments mechanism, to be able to swap payments between different machines out there. They've already launched 19 satellites to this point. These are Pico satellites, small satellites, but they're designed to be able to communicate with sensors that can be put in all kinds of things. So it could be smart cities, it could be autonomous vehicles, and so forth. And then you can handle the payments through this new coin that they're trying to launch. We also have Neuron, another DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure play. They are setting up the sensors locally. Their first niche is going to be for drones, tracking drones. They've caught the attention of the health service in the UK, also Google Wing, and they're going through their beta right now, where they're trying to get people who are willing to function or operate these different sensors to see how it's all going to work in practice. They've done some proof of concepts, but now they want to expand that into areas where these drones are operating more frequently. But once they've set that up, they know they can use those sensors for other things like autonomous vehicles. So I'm really excited to see where Hedera makes its mark in this Internet of Things, smart city, and decentralized physical infrastructure space. So that one's pretty exciting. The other thing, we already talked about energy a little bit, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper down in that track. We talked about carbon credits. One of the things is Hedera just joined a consortium. It's called Blockchain for Energy. We don't know exactly what they're doing. The consortium itself is meant to figure out ways where they can use distributed ledger technology to make that industry more efficient, all kinds of things, other ways they can use this DLT technology. What was interesting to me, number one, is the other names that were on this consortium. We have the likes of Saudi Aramco, Chevron, Exxon, Schlumberger. There was only about 14 of them on this list. Chesapeake Energy was another one, but there was, even though it's blockchain for energy, there was only one layer one network on it, and that was Hedera. There was also a builder that's working in our refi ecosystem called Totem Earth. It's creating a marketplace for these carbon credits and things like that. They're also in this consortium. So it was a pretty impressive lineup to have Hedera included in. The other thing in the energy industry that caught my eye was EDF. One of the Hedera governing council members is a French company. They are one of the largest electricity producers in the world. And they had not one, not two, but 3 projects that they're building, that they built on Hedera as proof of concepts, as pilots, to pretty much prove out how this technology could be used. One of them was green hydrogen and certification and trading. We had another one that was like EV charging stations with renewable energy certificates. And then the third one really caught my eye. It was the Hedge project. And what Hedge stands for is HED, Hedera, Google, and EDF. So this was another DePIN play. The goal of it was to create a decentralized network of meters, solar panels, and EV charging stations, and then connect all that with payment systems and so forth on the Hedera network. So not only do we have the council itself, but we have these other entities that are working together to create some pretty impressive stuff.
It sounds absolutely awesome. You know, back when we did episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money, which was Bitcoin to Hashgraph, I talked about, you know, how this had the potential of doing things like running the traffic grid, the water system, the energy grid, and it's happening. I mean, it's slowly, you know, it's little bit by bit, I should say, but it is happening. That is the future, is to have distributed ledgers running everything. And the distributed ledger that can do most of this best is not blockchain, but a graph of hashes. So
it can touch, Mike, almost every industry, right? And these aren't just green shoots. These are substantial things that are being done by really large enterprises. They aren't playing around with this. But not only can we do that, but we can meet the needs, as I mentioned in the beginning, of all the other, medium-sized businesses out there and the small startups. And we're seeing a lot of traction there as well. An example of a medium-sized business, we have a company called Bank Social that just came out with an announcement today. They thought the best way to kind of bank the crypto space, because banks are, we'll say, not as inclined to help the space, is to create it around credit unions. And they've actually gotten a federal credit union charter to pretty much build things on top of Hedera. They are going to have an application. They are going to have on-ramps and off-ramps for stable coins for our DeFi ecosystem. And it's already been approved within the US. So that's really exciting. That's a smaller company, but then we have startups and things like that that are doing a great job as well. We can get that into that as far as consumer engagement, gaming, and so forth. But yeah, it's not just those green shoots anymore. We're really seeing some progress being made.
awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Sure. Well, we might as well go down that line of consumer engagement. The one thing, I
Okay.
think we talked about this a little bit before, and it's because I've become a huge fan, but it's Karate Combat. Essentially, it's the first sports league that's been built on top of Hedera. And the way they're leveraging Hedera is in a couple ways. Number one, they've dissolved ownership. So it's just, the only thing there is the token. It doesn't represent ownership, but it gives a way for the fans to interact more closely. And they do two things. They allow fans to vote on different rule changes. They also do this thing called up-only gaming. So they already built into their tokenomics a certain amount of time where they give out this token if you participate in up-only gaming. And what up-only gaming is, they have a fight card of 10 different fighters. And if you pick the right fighters, you place your tokens on them, you'll get additional tokens back. But you don't lose any if you don't pick the right fighters. And initially, when I first started doing this, I was just watching the fights and just really impressed with the show that they put on. But once you have skin in the game, it completely changes the dynamic. And they've had some huge events. They were the hottest ticket at Token 2049, one of the largest crypto conferences in the world. The end of this month, they're doing another one at Consensus. Again, one of the largest crypto conferences in the world. And it's going to be the hottest ticket in town. In the evenings, everybody is wondering what you're going to do. Of course, they have the conference during the day, but this is going to be one of the big tickets in the evening. And they've really revolutionized what's possible leveraging Web3 within the sporting world. But consumer engagement goes so much further than that. We have other teams that are working. The one that I'm really excited about is gaming. Just like you said, it takes a long time to develop these things, especially when you're talking about games. Some of the games that we have that are being built are AAA games. And when you talk about AAA games, you're talking about games that have, $100 million budget. And Lithos is our example of that within the ecosystem. It takes years to come to market. But even some of our smaller gaming teams, they can take a while to come to market too. What we're going to see over the next 12 to 18 months is many of the teams that we have building. I already mentioned Lithos. We have Earthlings. We have Astronova, Legends of the Past, Not a Slime World. All of their games are going to start to hit the market. And I think you don't know which one's going to work out and which one's going to resonate, but I think we're going to have a few hits in that. And having in-game assets that you can then trade in other games, in DeFi protocols and things like that, can make things a lot more dynamic for those games. I think there's a lot of tools, and I think we're going to have some hit games on our hands.
Well, that's awesome. And, I'm just amazed to see the growth, even though it was predictable when I first saw what Hashgraph was and how it differed from blockchain. I thought that it was going in some of these directions, but all of the interaction in the sports world and in gaming, I did not see that coming. And so this has a big application in entertainment, as well as doing functional things in the stock market. But, I was saying that it has the ability to pretty much replace, or at least it's going to underpin the stock market. The people that are in power are not going to give up power. So we're going to see companies like BlackRock and so on continue. But this will be underpinning I'm just hoping that it can make government more efficient. And, I hate to see all of the government waste. I hate to see the overreach of government too, though. I hope it doesn't make government more efficient as far as making it more airtight in the handcuffs that it can place on us.
Well, it's going to make every industry more efficient, right? And that includes the government. It's going to make the government more efficient. Things like digital IDs can make voting and voter fraud, address it with some of these tools that we're going to be bringing to market. So you're absolutely right. It's going to touch government as well.
Well, that's one of the things that I was really hoping for. And, it shows at the end of episode 8 of Hidden Secrets of Money. I was hoping for more freedom, liberty, and the U.S. has become such a banana republic. when I look at the way things are being run, and I just hope that when it comes to elections and so on, that all of this can be, that distributed ledger technology can be an incredible solution for a lot of the world's problems. So I want to thank you so much for this, the time that you've spent with us. And so today, for everybody, Hashgraph is around, or the HBAR is around 10 cents, that area. It was 5 cents the last time that we talked. And so I look forward to the next time that we speak, Brandon. And I look forward to seeing what the price will be then. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you, Brandon. This was great.
Mike, it's always a pleasure.